Think you know El Chapo, the flashy kingpin who loved the spotlight and ended up in a supermax prison because he thought he was untouchable? What if I told you there is another cartel boss who has been playing the game completely differently? Meet Fausto Isidro Mezzaflores, alias El Chapo Isidro. While his famous namesake courted fame and fell, this man has stayed invisible, untouchable, and free for over 14 years. Today, we dive into the story of Mexico's most elusive cartel leader, a man who turned humility into his greatest weapon, and it's one you won't forget. Fausto Isidro Mezzaflores was born in 1982 in the rugged mountains of Sinaloa, specifically in the municipality of Guasave. The cartel world was not something you joined. It was something you inherited, like the color of your eyes. His father, a humble campesino, worked the poppy fields that fed Mexico's growing heroin trade. These were not legal crops. They were the foundation of an empire that stretched from the Sierra Madre to the streets of Chicago. His mother, Maria, raised him in a community where everyone knew someone connected to the business, where silence was survival, and where asking too many questions could get you killed. That made young Fausto part of the narco ecosystem from his first breath. The mountains of Sinaloa have produced more cartel leaders than any other region in Mexico. It is a place where poverty meets opportunity, where traditional farming cannot compete with the profits of illegal crops, and where young men grow up knowing there are only a few paths out of the mountains, and most of them involve the drug trade. From a young age, Fausto learned the unwritten rules of survival in cartel territory. By the time he was 12, he was already running small errands for local operators, carrying messages, watching for strangers, and learning to read the subtle signs that meant danger was coming. While other kids were playing soccer in dusty village squares, Fausto was learning to read people, to stay quiet, and to never draw unnecessary attention to himself or his family. He grew up surrounded by violence, money, and power, but also by the constant fear that came with that world. In the mountains of Sinaloa, you learned early that privilege came with a deadly price. One wrong move, one moment of carelessness, one betrayal, and you disappeared forever. Your family might find your body weeks later, or they might never find it at all. That lesson would shape everything about how Fausto operated for the rest of his life. When Fausto was just 16, everything changed in a way that would define his approach to the cartel world. A rival group from Sonora moved into his territory, challenging the local power structure that had kept relative peace for years. The violence escalated quickly, brutally, and without mercy. In one horrific week in 1998, 3 of his childhood friends were found dead, their bodies dumped in different locations as a message to anyone thinking about resistance. These were not just acquaintances, they were boys he had grown up with, played with, and shared dreams about one day leaving the mountains for something better. The first was found shot execution style behind the local church. The second was discovered in a burned-out car on the highway to Culiacan. The third, his closest friend since childhood, was found tortured and mutilated, left where Fausto would be sure to see him. At the funeral of his closest friend, As the entire village gathered in shocked silence, Fausto made a decision that would define his entire approach to the cartel world. While others talked about revenge, about making noise, about showing outsiders what happened when you messed with Sinaloa, he chose a different path entirely. He decided that survival meant staying invisible, that the smartest predators hunt in silence, and that the loudest voice in the room is often the first one silenced forever. In Sinaloa's narco culture, that was more than just strategy. It was revolutionary. Most young men wanted to be seen, feared, respected. They wanted corridos written about them. They wanted their names whispered with awe and terror. Fausto took it to heart that the most successful operators were the ones nobody talked about until it was too late. Instead of seeking the spotlight, he began studying how the most successful operators stayed alive while others fell. He watched, he learned, and he prepared for a very different kind of career in the cartel world. After that turning point, Fausto went all in on becoming the perfect soldier, reliable, invisible, and absolutely lethal when necessary. By the time he was 18, he was already earning respect in lower-level roles within the local organization that controlled his region. He started as protection, the man who watched backs during meetings, who made sure conversations stayed private, and who could spot trouble before it arrived. This was not glamorous work. It meant standing in the heat for hours, staying alert when others relaxed, and being ready to die for men who might not even know his name. Then he moved into transport, learning the routes that connected the mountain laboratories to the border crossings. He memorized every back road, every checkpoint, every safe house between the Sierra Madre and the Rio Grande. He learned the timing, when to move, when to wait, when to abandon a shipment rather than risk capture. He also handled local enforcement, dealing with problems quietly and efficiently. When someone stole from the organization, when someone talked too much, when someone needed to disappear, Fausto was the one who made it happen. Without drama, without witnesses, without leaving evidence that could come back to hurt the organization. What made Fausto different was his approach to every aspect of the business. He never bragged about his work, never posted photos of money or weapons, never made himself the center of attention. He understood that discretion was more valuable than gold. While other young operators bought flashy cars and expensive jewelry, Fausto drove modest vehicles and dressed like any other working man from the mountains. Locals started whispering about this young operator, the one who got things done quietly, who solved problems without creating bigger ones, who could be trusted with the most sensitive operations, because he kept a low profile and never attracted attention. His break came through the Beltran Leyva organization, one of Mexico's most powerful cartels at the time. It was led by 4 brothers who had built an empire that stretched from the poppy fields of Sinaloa to the cocaine routes of South America. The Beltran Leyva brothers, Arturo, Hector, Carlos, and Alfredo, controlled massive territories and had connections reaching the highest levels of government and law enforcement. The cartel leadership noticed Fausto because of exactly what made others overlook him. While flashy lieutenants drew heat from rivals and authorities, and while they appeared in newspapers and became targets for elimination, Fausto operated like a ghost. He was trusted with increasingly important operations because he understood that in the cartel world, the loudest voice often becomes the first target. By his early 20s, Fausto had become one of the Beltran Leyva organization's most reliable operators, handling security for high-level meetings, overseeing major shipments, and eliminating threats to the organization's stability. He was earning serious money, but more importantly, he was earning something far more valuable in the cartel world: trust. But fame has a price. And for the Beltran Leyva organization, it came fast and brutally. It is December 16th, 2009, and the Mexican government's war against the cartels has been raging for 3 years. President Felipe Calderon has deployed the military against cartel strongholds, and the Beltran Leyva organization has become a primary target. Even though the Mexican military has been hunting cartel leaders for months, Arturo Beltran Leyva, known as El Barbas or the Beard, is still operating from his stronghold in Cuernavaca, just south of Mexico City. He is considered untouchable, protected by layers of corruption, firepower, and fear. He and his security team were at a luxury apartment complex in the Lomas de Cocoyoc neighborhood, believing they were safe behind their usual protection. For years, this setup had worked perfectly, with safe houses, corrupt officials, and enough firepower to fight off any threat. The apartment was fortified, stocked with weapons, and surrounded by lookouts. What Arturo does not know is that his own communications have been compromised. The DEA and Mexican intelligence have been tracking his phone calls, mapping his network, and planning the perfect moment to strike. Mexican Marines are closing in, and this time there is no corrupt official to warn him. At 4:30 in the afternoon, as they settled in for what should have been a routine evening of planning and coordination, gunfire erupted from multiple directions. What sounded like firecrackers in the distance was actually the beginning of a 2-hour firefight that would change the entire landscape of Mexican organized crime. More than 200 Mexican Marines stormed the building, supported by helicopters and armored vehicles. Arturo's men fought back desperately, using high-powered rifles and grenades. The sound of automatic weapons fire echoed through the neighborhood as residents fled in terror. Bullets shattered windows and chipped concrete. Smoke filled the hallways. The Marines advanced floor by floor, room by room, while Arturo's security team made their final stand. For 2 hours, the battle raged with an intensity that shocked even seasoned law enforcement officials. In less than 2 hours, it was over. The silence that followed was deafening. When the smoke cleared, Arturo Beltran Leyva was dead, along with several of his top lieutenants. The apartment was destroyed. Blood covered the floors, and shell casings littered every surface. The man who had seemed untouchable, who had corrupted officials at the highest levels, who had built an empire worth billions, was gone. The Mexican government displayed his body to the media, proving that even the most powerful cartel leaders could fall. But what they did not realize was that Arturo's death would create something far more dangerous: a power vacuum that would reshape the entire cartel landscape. Within weeks, the entire Beltran Leyva structure began collapsing like a house of cards. Hector Beltran Leyva was arrested in a separate operation. Carlos Beltran Leyva went into hiding, eventually surrendering to authorities. The organization that had seemed untouchable was suddenly leaderless, vulnerable, and under attack from all sides. News of Arturo's death spread through the cartel world like wildfire, creating chaos that would last for years. Rivals saw opportunity in the power vacuum. Authorities pressed their advantage, launching operations against remaining Beltran Leyva strongholds. And lieutenants throughout the organization faced an impossible choice: run, hide, fight for what remained, or make deals with enemies. The collapse was swift and brutal. Within months, many of Arturo's top lieutenants were dead, killed in firefights with authorities, or eliminated by rivals moving into former Beltran Leyva territory. Others flipped, making deals with authorities in exchange for reduced sentences or protection. Some joined rival organizations, bringing their knowledge and connections to new masters. But Fausto Isidro did something different, something that would keep him free for the next 14 years and counting. Instead of trying to rebuild the empire or expand into new territories like other ambitious lieutenants, he made a calculated decision that went against every instinct in the cartel world. He chose to stay regional, focusing on a specific corridor he knew better than anyone else: the mountainous border region between Sinaloa and Sonora. While others fought expansion wars that drew attention from authorities and resources from their operations, Fausto concentrated on something far more valuable: survival. This was not cowardice. It was strategic brilliance. Fausto understood that the Beltran Leyva organization had fallen because it became too big, too visible, too dependent on corruption that could be exposed. He decided to build something different, smaller, more flexible, and absolutely invisible to outside observers. He avoided every mistake that had brought down his former bosses. No flashy lifestyle that would attract media attention. No social media presence that could be tracked. No unnecessary violence that would bring heat from authorities. No expansion into territories he did not understand. He ran his operation like a business, not an ego trip. Instead of trying to control vast territories, he focused on controlling key smuggling routes through terrain he had known since childhood. Instead of building a large organization that could be infiltrated, he worked with a small circle of trusted associates, many of whom had grown up with him in the mountains. This approach kept him invisible to the media, unpredictable to rivals, and always one step ahead of law enforcement. While bigger names fell around him, El Chapo, El Mayo's sons, and leaders of the Juarez and Gulf cartels, Fausto Isidro became the cartel world's ultimate survivor. His strategy was so effective that, for years, many people in law enforcement were not even sure he existed. While other cartel leaders appeared in newspapers and intelligence reports, Fausto operated in complete shadow, known only through the results of his work. What is certain is that this strategy worked better than anyone could have predicted. 14 years later, he is still free, still operating, and still considered one of Mexico's most wanted fugitives, but also one of the most elusive. Today, Fausto Isidro Meza Flores remains one of Mexico's most elusive cartel leaders, a ghost who has outlasted presidents, survived multiple military operations, and avoided the fate that claimed virtually every other major figure from his era. Here is one of the wildest facts about him. He has survived longer as a fugitive than most cartel bosses survive in the business at all. In a world where the average cartel leader lasts maybe 5 years before death or capture, where flashy kingpins rise and fall like shooting stars, Fausto's 14-year run is almost unbelievable. So how does he manage it? How does someone stay free when the Mexican military, the DEA, and rival cartels all want him dead or captured? First, he controls key smuggling corridors between Sinaloa and Sonora, territories he has known since childhood. This gives him home field advantage that cannot be replicated. He knows every mountain path, every safe house, every person who can be trusted. When authorities or rivals come looking, he disappears into terrain that might as well be another planet. Second, he has refused absorption by larger cartels, particularly the Sinaloa cartel led by Ismael El Mayo Zambada. While this has made him enemies, it has also kept him independent and unpredictable. He does not have to follow anyone else's orders, does not have to worry about internal politics, and does not depend on protection from organizations that might sacrifice him for their own benefit. Third, he will not submit to anyone else's authority, no matter the pressure or incentives offered. This has led to ongoing conflicts, especially with Sinaloa. But it has also meant he controls his own destiny in a world where most people are expendable. The Sinaloa cartel wants him gone for exactly these reasons. They see his independence as a threat to their control of the region, a challenge to their authority that cannot be tolerated. They have tried to eliminate him multiple times, sending hit teams into his territory, offering bounties for information about his location, and even attempting to turn his own people against him. But Fausto's survival skills and local knowledge have kept him ahead of both cartel hitmen and federal forces. He has survived at least 6 major military operations designed specifically to capture him. He has avoided dozens of assassination attempts. He has outlasted 3 Mexican presidents and countless law enforcement officials who made capturing him a priority. The war with Sinaloa has been particularly intense because it is not just about territory, it is about respect and control. Sinaloa cannot allow an independent operator to succeed in what they consider their backyard. For Fausto, submission would mean death anyway. So he fights with the desperation of someone who has nothing to lose. Currently, he is believed to be operating from remote areas of the Sierra Madre Occidental, moving constantly between safe houses, trusting only a small circle of longtime associates who have proven their loyalty over decades. The Mexican government has a $2 million bounty on his head. The DEA considers him a high-priority target. Interpol has issued a red notice for his arrest. Despite all this pressure, despite being one of the most wanted men in Mexico, Fausto Isidro continues to operate his smuggling network, continues to move product across the border, and continues to prove that sometimes the best way to win is simply to survive longer than everyone else. His organization is estimated to move hundreds of millions of dollars worth of drugs each year, primarily heroin and fentanyl, produced in mountain laboratories that authorities cannot locate. He has adapted to changing markets, shifting from traditional drugs to synthetic opioids that are more profitable and easier to produce. Intelligence reports suggest he is also involved in money laundering operations that span multiple countries using a network of businesses and financial institutions to clean drug profits. But proving any of this is nearly impossible when the man himself remains a ghost. Fausto Isidro Meza Flores went from a mountain kid running errands to Mexico's most wanted ghost, proving that in the cartel world, sometimes the smartest move is staying invisible, while everyone else fights for the spotlight. His story shows us that real power is not always about being the biggest or the loudest. Sometimes it is about being the last one standing when the smoke clears. Subscribe to Inform Secreto to continue exploring the hidden stories behind power. Real stories told unfiltered. Because what you don't see also controls the world. See you soon.